mi ó rẹwà, oníwà, ó sì tún lẹ́wà o. Adé orí ọ̀kín mú òwe, ìyẹn òjò tẹ́kẹ̀yẹ. Ọmọ yẹn lè ní yàtọ̀ gedegbe, ó fàkọyọ, ìjímèrè lọ́ba ọ̀bọ.
Well, thanks for staying with us this morning. Driving financial inclusion. You know, when you hear financial inclusion, one of the things that comes to your mind is, okay, there are some people that have been excluded, and they need to be brought into the fold, so to speak. So that's why we have this morning the Group Executive, E-Business and Retail Products of First Bank. He joins us virtually this morning. Mr. Chuma Izirim, thanks for joining us this morning. First of all, First Bank is said to have made something in the region of 28 billion naira from e-banking
alone
in the first half of 2021, despite the challenging business environment. What's the secret? I would like to, if you can share that secret out, I'd want to do business as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's good to be here with you and to be given the opportunity to share with you, what we're doing, especially in the financial inclusion space. Our performance in H1 2021, and also if you look at our performance in the last few years, it's largely a reflection of what the bank has done in terms of investment in information technology and digital channels. Okay, we've made very significant investments in our IT and digital platforms. So that's just a reflection of what we are seeing in terms of returns. Secondly, we've also been very deliberate in growing our customer base. Within the last 2 years, 18 months, we've added almost about 10 to 15 million customers in our network. And thirdly, we've also grown our network. I'm not sure where First Bank has the largest branch network in the country. But what even at that, we found out that by 2020 or 2019, we're still not present in over 400 local government areas. So we came up with a business that has now enabled us to be present in 762 local government councils. And then lastly, I will also attribute the H1 performance to what happened last year in the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. Where most bank branches they were closed, and customers had to now onboard on our digital channels. So we've seen very significant growth in the number of customers who are now using our digital channels to transact. Thank you.
8 billion is quite a significant amount of money, but
and the highest in 8 years.
Yeah, wow.
Despite the fact that First Bank is not really considered a new generation bank, it's still classified as a traditional bank,
but evolved. And we have about something 750 business locations and 130,620 banking agents spread across 99% of the 774 local government areas in Nigeria. Mr. Izirim, with this volume of work, if I can call it that, there will be some common complaints that people have. You want to share some of them and how First Bank has been able to sustain its balance sheet, so to speak, and keep its customers?
Yes, thank you very much. So you are correct. So we are managing over 750 business locations and then 136,000 agent locations. okay, will come with its challenges. As you're aware, we deliver our services, leveraging on some of the national infrastructure, especially telecoms and power. So what typically happens is that, once there is a glitch in any of this infrastructure, that will result to, not too pleasant, service experienced by our customers. So what we've done is that, we have a structure, that works, 24/7, to take on, customer complaints and ensure that they are resolved, promptly. We also, of course, the most important is, for us is the first contact, where customers can call, or access, through any of the social media, channels, okay, for them to make complaints. We've also, been very deliberate in terms of, ensuring that some of these, issues, are resolved, without even, proactively, without even the customer, without waiting for the customer to report. Okay, so for us, it's quite, an interesting but very challenging, task, managing, close to about 150,000, service locations, when you include our ATMs and other, channels, through which we serve our customers. Okay, considering, the peculiarities of this market.
Mr. Ejere, despite the fact that First Bank is still classified as a traditional bank, pardon the choice of my choice of word, how have your customers received your electronic offerings?
That's a very interesting question. There is nothing wrong. You don't, feel very bad in, saying that we're a traditional bank. Traditional in the sense that we've been around for 127 years, going to 128 years. There are very few institutions in the world that have survived, 50 years, not a total of 100 years. Okay, so it's something that we're very proud of. But let me also say this, is perception that we're dealing with. Okay, and the good thing is that there are industry statistics to show actually the position of each of the players, when it comes to digital or innovation. We today account for about more than 25% of digital banking transactions that happen in the country. So if we're a traditional bank, the way people perceive us, why would a bank like First Bank account for 25% of transactions that happen in this country? Okay, considering the fact that we are over 25 banks. I'm not even talking of the other banks or the other players. So we've done a lot. Some of us did not start from First Bank. We also worked with some of these other banks that today you consider the new generation. We worked in those banks. So there is nothing unique that those banks are doing that we're not doing. Our infrastructure is even more modern than most of these banks that because they are modern. And in terms of the workforce, the average age of people that work in First Bank is less than 35. So it's just a perception that people will say. But the good thing is that the industry knows, the regulators they know, okay, the performance of all the banks when it comes to digital.
It's interesting that the way you responded to Alera's question, but I'd like to ask it a little differently in terms of customers. You do have individual customers as you have corporates. My own question is around financial inclusion for micro, small, and medium businesses. A good number of them, some of them would rather just keep their monies at home. So if there are those, of course, that there are those that are, as we say, unbanked in Nigeria, we still have them. So in terms of this driving of financial inclusion and empowering Nigerians. Are there any special programs, packages, or initiatives for micro, small, and medium enterprises, especially those that may be unbanked at the moment?
Yes. So we have a business unit, that manages our, micro, small, and medium enterprises. Okay, and that business unit, is well researched. As you know, because of our, network size, because of our presence in locations where, competition today does not exist, we are very close to, these businesses. So the last count, we have over 1.5 million, accounts, that are classified as SME. Okay, so we've also been very deliberate in terms of looking at their needs, because we know that they have very peculiar needs when it comes to financial services. Unlike individuals or established corporates, most of them will require support in terms of capital. Some of them would require support in terms of their managing their cash. Some of them also require support in terms of making payments. So we've come up with products, okay, just focusing on this very critical segment of our economy, and as we're aware, this segment accounts for more than 60% of our GDP, and so they are very, very important, okay, to the growth of this economy. So we are very focused about, and the good thing about it, like I said earlier, is that our presence in our network size, gives us that competitive advantage, to reach out to this, to them. And then lastly, over the last 1 year, we've also come up with digital solutions, okay, just targeting this critical sector, segment of our economy, such that from the comfort of their homes or offices, they're able to carry out transactions, just like any other customer of the bank.
Talking about the digital solutions that you talked about, how is First Bank driving digital financial inclusion? Are there electronic innovations and products pioneered by First Bank that are bridging this financial inclusions gap?
Yes. So we are very proud of what we have done, at least in supporting the efforts of central bank and of course the government in driving financial inclusion, at least within the last 3 to 4 years. The biggest challenge we have in the economy is that before First Bank introduced agency banking at the commercial scale, we had problems with access to financial services. More than 500 local government councils in Nigeria before 2017 did not have any presence of any bank branch or financial institution, or any institution related financial services. So what we did, and which I said we are very proud of, is that we came up in 2016 with a bank-led and bank agnostic agency banking network. Okay, that now serves all customers of all the banks in Nigeria. So you mustn't necessarily be a customer of First Bank, for you to access, financial services in any of those locations. And the next thing we did was to aggressively grow the network. And so today we are in 772, local government councils. The only two that were not present, do not have income activities because of, the activities, of, the bandits. Okay, so for us, that's the thing that we have done. That's the first thing we did, and we've also, using that network, be opening accounts for people that, before now, were financially excluded. So you can walk into any of those 136,000 locations and open a bank account. Okay, so that network processes about 1.5 million transactions daily. And if you are very familiar with banking transactions, most banks in India don't even process that in a week. Okay, so but that's what that network processes daily. So we've taken banking to closer to people that before now they have access to the financial services. Secondly, we also have a product, okay, because we are also aware that in some of those locations, they have challenges with BVN registration. Okay, so we have our First Money wallet, which is an easy to use and easy to remember bank account. Where customers, individuals, within seconds, will open an account, a bank account, and the account number is added than their phone number, okay, which is very easy to remember. So today, we've within the last 18 months, we've opened about 12 million wallets. So there are so many things we are also doing, just to make sure that we support the financial inclusion efforts of the government and central bank. But for me, those will be the two major things we've done. And we're hoping that within the next few years, we would also sweat the opportunities that exist in this network of applications.
Mr. Jim, you're trying to engender financial inclusion. And my partner here has spoken about the unbanked. Some of your competitors are coming up with all kinds of incentives, including no fees at all, no COTs. Are there any special incentives you're offering your incoming customers or even your old ones to keep them with you?
Yes. So I think that, like I said, within the last, 18 months, we've added about 12 million accounts in First Bank. And these are mostly, people that, before now, do not have access to financial services. So the good thing about, our network is that, if you're a First Bank customer, you can walk into any of our locations and, you're able to transact free of any charge. Except when you are carrying out a transaction that maybe will involve third parties. Okay, we also are aware of what some of the offerings in the market, but the truth is that as a 127-year-old institution, we are focused on a business model that we feel that is sustainable. Okay, so different players have their objectives, and we believe that what we have for the the underbanked or the underserved segments of the customer is compelling enough for them to stick to our brand.
My Alero asked you about the incentives. There are those who are borrowing money, so to speak, at zero interest rate or zero fees. That's the word.
Some have no commission on turnover.
Yeah, and all those things. Those are definitely significant incentives, and especially when the current CBN interest rate is 11.5%. But then your bank has been growing its innovation aspects for quite a while. So what then would be the bank's latest electronic banking innovation that might spur growth maybe further?
Let me make this clarification, okay? I don't want to go into the details. In answer to Leo's question, the truth is that we have accounts, that customers can operate without paying any annual maintenance fee. Okay, we have, so it just depends on what the customer wants. Okay, so I just need to make that clarification, because it's not something that's very new in the industry, although, some people are just, more like hyping it. But, going back to your question, yes, the way we see, e-business or electronic banking business is that it's a platform game. Okay, so we have different platforms that we use, in serving our customers. So we have our mobile app, we have the USSD, our cards, ATMs, point of sale, our bill aggregator platform, our agency banking, our mobile wallet. So we have different platforms. So we have over the years, built these platforms, and it's something that we're very proud of, and it has a very significant cost to the bank. But the truth is that we will also begin to we have started seeing the benefits in the investment we've made over the next years. Just to answer your question, we will begin to layer services, okay, on these platforms, okay, targeting some segments. So what you have is something that you can do, consider maybe a plain vanilla, okay, service offerings. But we have made some investments, in terms of some capabilities, leveraging on our data and some other assets that are just very unique to us. So that we can now begin to layer, some of our, services, leveraging on these assets, on these platforms. So I might not be very specific on, telling you the kind of things we want to do, because for us, we are in the air, and it's just letting the cat out of the bag. But it's just to say that, within the next few months, we would, begin to see some of the things we are doing around sweating the opportunities on our digital platforms.
Talking like a general who doesn't want to let out all of his arsenal on air. It's quite understandable. But, there's this other thing that I want to ask you. What channels, would you say got the most adoption, from customers over the first half of 2021, and which as well contributed to the largest chunk of revenue for First Bank? 28 billion naira is no small change.
That's also not a very fair question. you are asking me, but just to be very fair to our audience, I would say that we've seen massive growth, okay, around our acceptance channels, especially with respect to the innovations around those channels. So especially channels like agency banking, our wallet business, and then the mobile apps and the USSD. So those channels, based on what also is happening in the market, are like in the areas that the customers using just to transact. So for us, it's largely around innovations on our acceptance channels.
I know that you usually have stuff to give your shareholders at the end of the day. I wish there was something for customers as well. Don't answer that question. Just want to thank you very much, Mr. Chuma Ezerim, Group Executive, E-Business and Retail Products, First Bank. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. So, Sunrise continues for the home stretch after now. Stay with us.